I got my buddy with me today. I got my buddy.
I'll just be right back.
Huh.
I'll be right back.
Guess I'll see you later.
I'll be right back.
The scent of betrayal. It stinks. It stinks. Guys, welcome to the DIY Designer. For those of you that are new, my name is Orly Shani. I'm so glad that you found me. Today is a great episode. Did you know that you can make your own custom kick-ass joggers that are like just slightly drop crotch and just slightly tapered at the ankle that fit you perfectly with no pattern at all? I did not know that until 3 days ago when I did it. And now I know it, and now I'm so excited, and I get to share it with you guys. This is gonna be fantastic. All you need for this is a couple yards of fabric. I highly recommend using like a cool French terry. Something that's got a slight bit of stretch is gonna make this much easier for you. But really, all you're gonna need to do is grab a pair of pants that you already own and make some slight adjustments and tweaks off that pair of pants so that they already fit you and you already know you love them. I can't wait to get into this one. So let's do it. What am I waiting for? Materials. So we are going to sort of knock off our pants onto either pattern paper or muslin. This just allows you to reuse the pattern if you love the way it comes out. Now what you can see is I'm using a pair of pants that I own that actually have the fit that I really like. They have that slight drop crotch and kind of that U shape at the bottom, which is exactly what I want. You're gonna wanna fold your pants in half so the inseam is lined up, and when you do that, you'll notice that the front sits much lower than the back. That's really important so that you have the proper fit and the proper drape. Take those pants and fold them in half, making sure that everything is laying really flat. You want to take that front part, basically the part that's going to go from like your belly button straight down to the crotch, and you want that to be straight. You want the leg to be out on an angle like this. We are going to end up using this pattern on the fold, so having that line be straight is really important. Next thing you're going to do is just mark the location where the center front is, the outer side seam, and the center back is. You can see it's almost a 2-inch difference, and we'll connect these lines in just a minute. Now I'm just drawing a line straight down from the center front. Again, this is gonna be on the fold, and I'm kind of tracing out this U shape. I'm exaggerating the perpendicular angle of the U shape because again, my pants are not gonna have a center front seam. So I'm just drawing the line, following the angle of the pants. I wanted mine to be a little wider than this, so you can see I'm tracing it about 1 inch outside, which is actually gonna end up giving me 4 inches all the way around because this is on the fold. Now it's time to create the back and the front. You can see there is my back and there is my side seam. I'm connecting my side seam straight into my center back. I'm actually increasing it just a teeny bit. Now I'm going from my side seam to my center front seam, and I'm just naturally connecting the two into a slope. And you can see the difference. What this is gonna allow me to do is use this one piece as my front and my back pattern. This is my fold, and that's how we create the pattern. They need to match up. The front and the back need to match up right there on the outer side seam. It's the center front and the center back where they'll be a little different. Now let's say, for example, you wanna take a classic pair of sweatpants. These sweatpants are kind of more high-waisted, so the first thing you wanna do is stretch out the waistband so that you're getting an accurate width of what your waist is gonna be. That was 20 inches, which, 40 inches all the way around, and I know I want them to be lower on my hips, so I made it 22. So first thing I do is plot those 2 points. Now again, because these sweatpants are kind of high-waisted, I'm actually gonna keep the center front crotch seam as the same length, because when they're low on my hips, they'll be right. But what I do need to do is kind of create that U shape so that they end up with that slight U shape. Let's go over to this one. This is the one I end up using. Obviously, our center front is on the fold, so that's straight. We've got the front sloping down, we've got this back a little bit higher, and we've got the U shape. This is a great example of why this works. Here's a pair of jeans that I have, high-waisted fitted jeans. If I line them up on the outer side seam, you can see where the extra volume needs to be added. To the left of my button placket, I've got like 2 to 3 inches of excess, right? That's gonna give me that volume. You can also see that the crotch is dropped down about 2 inches, and it creates the U shape. So this is how, if you were taking jeans, this is where you would be adding that fabric in to create this fit. So now it's time to cut it out. I fold my fabric in half, lay my pattern on the fold, and I start cutting it out. Obviously, this is going to be one piece for the entire front. Well, that's what I thought it was. That was my plan anyway. I looked at my fabric and I realized I didn't have enough to cut another piece on the fold. Yeah, I was pissed. I was like, what the world? I ended up realizing though that if I was willing to do a seam down the center front, I could actually get 2 pant legs, or a right and a left, out of my extra fabric. So I'm cutting single layer here. Take the pattern, flip it the opposite way, obviously, so you don't end up with 2 right legs. And now if I sew them together, I basically have reattached it and I end up with an exact mirror of what's on the back. So I lay it face to face. I'm gonna sew that simple seam right down the center front, and that will end up giving me an identical pattern, and there you go. So you can see now I'm laying them face to face. My back is one solid piece. My front is the exact same thing, but it just has a center seam. That way I had enough to cut. Pin everything together and sew it all together. Now, for me originally, I thought this was just gonna be like a dry run, so I was just doing straight stitches. You guys are gonna wanna do zigzag stitches or an overlock machine. That way this doesn't pop or stretch on you. That's super important. Now, originally I planned on just kind of folding the top to create a drawstring casing, but I realized that it might be nice to put a waistband in it. It would also give me a little bit more of a drop crotch, which I wanted. So here I grabbed some fabric. I didn't have enough to create one long strip, so I cut 2 small ones and just sewed them together. Now, I put the seam of the waistband that I created and I lined it up with the side seam. That way it would just sort of blend in perfectly. So grab your side seam if you're gonna do a waistband, grab the seam in your fabric if you needed one, and line them up. You're gonna lay them face to face, and you're now gonna pin it all the way around your pants. Now, I don't know why I did this. For some reason, I didn't think to make the other seam on the other side, and I made one in the center back. I honestly just wasn't even thinking. I don't know what happened there. You guys are gonna wanna create your next seam if you can on the side. That way you've got your side seams, and they just continue straight up into your waistband. Once you have them fitted properly, you're gonna sew that piece together so that your waistband is ready to be pinned and finished being pinned, or you can just cut it perfect to size the first time around, up to you. But basically now I'm pinning this waistband all the way in, right? It's fit the same size as my pants. It's pinned to the top of my pants, face to face. And again, now I'm just stitching this all the way around. You're gonna wanna use a zigzag stitch, and you can see, there we go. We've got a nice sort of waistband that's gonna go all the way around. I planned on using grommets to actually create the casing, or not the casing, but like the buttonholes, you know, for my drawstring. And so I grabbed these little ones and they felt kind of small. Like, I don't know, they looked a little silly. So in order to see if I could get away with the big ones, I folded my waistband down so that I knew how big it was gonna end up being. You don't wanna do that first or you can't get your grommets in. So just fold it, figure it out. Once you know what it's gonna be, center them, and then just mark where they're gonna go. I would say, you know, about 2 inches apart is probably a good distance. And now you're gonna cut like basically a little X where that's gonna go. You don't really wanna cut a big hole. You want a little X, and I'll show you why. Now, in order to reinforce where the grommet was gonna go, I just grabbed like a tiny little scrap of like fabric as a patch, and it's just gonna give me a little bit more strength. I grabbed everything, and you can see there, that's the male side of the grommet. That's the side that faces the outside, what we actually want to see. You're gonna push it through, and you can see those little check marks allow you to kind of press through the fabric while still staying super tight. Now I take my little patch and I sort of wiggle that sucker on too, so it's gonna give it a little bit more strength. You're gonna grab the female side of your grommet. It's got some spikes. You kind of push that sucker in. Now, this is gonna go on the back side. This is basically gonna protect your grommet. That way when you're hammering it, you don't scuff it up or scratch it. So lay it on the back side, grab everything and go outside on concrete. I tried it in my room on my hardwood floor and it does not work. You need concrete. I don't know why, but you just do. Bang on it super hard, give it a couple of good whacks, and then you're gonna feel for it. Make sure that it all feels solid, like it's not wiggly at all. If it's wiggly, put it back in and do it a few more times. I was good to go, so my grommets were in. Now that the grommets are in, I can actually sew down the waistband. So what I did is I sewed it to the original seam where I sewed the waistband to the pants. Again, guys, I've mentioned this before. I'm self-taught. I'm doing this without a pattern. I think this is the right way to go. It definitely works, but I'm not 100% sure. You know, I wanted it to be clean, so I didn't want to see a stitch on the outside. So by doing it like that, I thought it kind of worked perfectly. Now, if you have an overlock machine, that's a great thing because it will clean finish everything. If not, you can do what I did, which is basically just press it down so that that seam lays nice and flat on the inside and you barely see it. Now it's time to run the drawstring. You guys know the deal. A little safety pin, scooch and slide all the way through. Once you get to the other side, you're just gonna pull that safety pin out. And what I ended up doing here was cutting off the end because the tape like wouldn't come off, and then tying a knot. That'll prevent it from sliding through. And I'm gonna end up needing to buy a longer drawstring. I only bought 1.5 yards and I really need 2.
Okay, my room's a mess, whatever. This is where we're at. They are crazy cute. I'm obsessed. I wish that I had thought to put pockets. That would have been a really good call. I cut off a few inches because they were too long, and now I just have to decide if I want to keep them kind of like cropped like this, or if I should taper them. So if I taper them, basically I would just take like flip them inside out and take a little bit there and a little bit there, basically knee down. I think maybe that's what I should do.
And that's what I decided to do. So if you guys want to do this, even if you're doing this to a pair of sweatpants that you like already own and you want to taper them, flip them inside out and mark where the knee is, and basically just kind of slope, figure out how much you want to take out. Once you line up one, you want to use that as a guide for your second pant leg so that it's obviously even. Again, you're going to do this on a zigzag stitch, ignore my straight stitch, try them on, and if they fit right, trim off the excess. And that basically will create for you a really nice tapered leg that's evenly distributed on the right and left side. Now this is the last step, and this is totally optional, but what I realized is that the drawstring goes in the center of the waistband because that's where the grommets are, but it sort of ends up resting at the very top all the way around because obviously the weight of the pants hangs on them. So what I ended up doing was creating almost like a lane. Basically I sewed as close to the grommet all the way around the top as I could, and then same all the way across the bottom. So it created like a lane in the center of the waistband, keeping the drawstring perfect. Okay guys, that's it. Let's take a look.
Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what, add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what, I done doubled up on the workload, I think I fell in love with the bankroll, pray up, get money, then we lay low, add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what, add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what, add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up, matter what, told ya I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up, add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up, matter what, told ya I'ma